All right, guys, welcome back to another video. This is a huge week. Starfield is releasing at the end of the week. People who have the early access, the premium editions, the Constellation edition, September 1st is the official early access release date, but you're going to get access to it on August 31st at whatever time zone that you're in. It's going to be a great week. It's going to be a great weekend. Everybody talking about the stuff they've experienced in the first couple of hours of the game. I can't wait to jump in. I will be hopefully spending the majority of my weekend playing the game. But when it comes to Bethesda, one of the things we do know that people always talk about, they make fun of it, is they call it Bugfest. Their games do release and there are bugs in those games that eventually get worked out. It doesn't really take away from the entire experience of the game. People still really love them even with the bugs in there, but the bugs is obviously something you just don't want to have. It's not something that makes the experience better. And with Starfield, it looks like that may not be the case. And this is a great thing to see leading up to the launch of the game. We have this article here from Insider Gaming saying that Starfield is Bethesda's least buggiest game to date, saying sources. We already heard Tyler McVickers talk about this coming out on Discord and saying 15 hours in and hadn't experienced a single bug. And Insider Gaming has this saying, speaking with several sources under the condition of anonymity who are currently under embargo and couldn't speak publicly about the game, McVickers' comments is the same sentiment given by everyone that they've spoken to. 5 individuals have a varying amount of time put in the game, have all said that the amount of bugs they've experienced can be counted on one hand. In fact, most said 1 or 2 at most, with everyone they've spoken to having put dozens of hours into the game. In addition, it was also said that almost all the bugs that were found have already been listed to be fixed in Starfield's day 1 patch. So bugs that have been found so far by reviewers, you're not even going to experience those. And this is seemingly sounding like, if this is true, even though this is probably a small sample size, I mean, they do say it is a small pool of opinions, but let's extrapolate that out. There will be very minor to no bugs in this game at launch, which is just going to add to the overall immersion. It's probably going to add to the overall review scores of this game, push it up higher than it would have gotten if there were bugs in it, and the overall greatness of the release of, in my opinion, it's going to be a generational RPG. So I'm extremely excited for this game. I can't wait to jump in this weekend, and happy to hear that it looks like it's going to be essentially a bug-free game, a bug-free experience, something that we're not always used to when Bethesda releases their games. And the whole thing leading up to this, we're going to see more stories of people trying to destroy the hype. I mean, the whole boundaries thing to me is absolutely ridiculous, where people are getting upset that there are boundaries in this game. If you're running in a straight line, you're going to be landing on a planet. You're going to be exploring that area of the planet. Nobody's going to be running in a straight line to get to a boundary. So all that stuff is going to continue to occur. And I'm sure after the game does release, something I've talked about before is you're going to see the people trying to find anything wrong with this game. And it's going to be much harder to find things wrong when there aren't going to be huge bugs in Starfield. And when speaking about Starfield, one of the things that I think is going to be one of the coolest parts is going to be the mods. I mean, we've seen the mods in Skyrim. Starfield's even bigger, has all of these planets. People are going to have some of the most creative things, crossovers from other franchises. And we do have that confirmation that the creation kit will let modders make their own planet stories and more, which means this game is essentially endless. Pete Hines talked about this when it comes to the modding, saying we're doing it. We said we are. There's going to be mods. We're going to release the creation kit. If you've played Elder Scrolls or Fallout, it's going to work like that. It's post-launch. We have no other information. We have a launch to get through. It's coming. Now, he confirms this, doesn't give any more other information, but my biggest question when it does come to the mods is going to be, is the modding kit, is the creation kit going to release on the Xbox Series X and S at the same time as it does release on PC? Will these mods be available on Xbox essentially at the same time as they are available on PC? And we'll see if that is the case, because generally it is the PC modders go out there, make their stuff. It's there first. We've seen the mods come over to Skyrim, which is great. So hopefully when the creation kit is available, when the mods are available in Starfield, if you're on Xbox, you're going to get access to it right away. And if not, hopefully it's a very soon after date when it does launch on PC. But I think with them now, part of the Xbox Game Studios, first party studios, they're going to want to prioritize and make sure that everything is the same across PC and across the Xbox consoles. Again, this is going to be a huge week. Can't wait to hear everybody's stories of what they are experiencing in Starfield. Now let's jump over here. We have this news here from Phil Spencer. We know Xbox's strategy. When they came out with the Xbox Series X and S, we saw interviews about the amount of studios that they have, the amount of studios that they are going to try to get content from. And the content is going to be a game every 4 months or so, at least 4 first-party games every single year. I think so far this generation, Xbox has actually done a very good job with first-party releases overall. You take out 2022, you look so far at this year in 2023, phenomenal job with first-party releases minus the Redfall situation, but we're having Starfield coming out, we're having Forza Motorsport come out, you had H2 on console, you had Hi-Fi Rush. It goes on and on with what they've released, Minecraft Legends. And then going into 2024, you think about, there's tons of stuff, but you think about the 2 main ones, Avowed and Hellblade 2. Those are very big games that are going to be coming out. There's also the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and then other stuff that's been announced for Xbox Game Pass that is looking very promising going forward into the Xbox future. But they want to get at least 4 games every couple of months. And Phil Spencer, again, reiterates this in an interview, specifically here saying, put simply, it was once an aspiration, but now there's a plan to deliver 4 first-party games every year, something that Spencer stressed has already happened this year and will absolutely happen next year. And I mean, Starfield, to me, as even Xbox has said themselves, is kind of that reset of major first-party games coming out on a consistent basis, high-quality games as we move forward into 2024, into 2025, with the amount of studios that they have, with the amount of games in development, and then on top of that, the Activision Blizzard acquisition, when that does close, it just adds essentially even the ability to have even way more than 4 games coming out in a single year. So we'll see if this does hold true in 2024, because there's always going to be delays, but I feel like we are really at that point where the first party content is coming, and it is going to be coming on a continuous basis. Now, one of the franchises that, for at least new games, that has been missing Xbox has been Final Fantasy. We celebrated when they came out, and Final Fantasy 14 was coming onto the Xbox platform, because it did seem like it was a new relationship with Square Enix, and we were going to get future Final Fantasy games going forward, the new releases. Final Fantasy 16 obviously isn't on the platform, probably won't be coming onto the platform. Final Fantasy 7 Remake still isn't on the platform, and essentially probably won't be coming on the platform as well. However, Phil Spencer does say this. He says, we'll hear more about new Final Fantasy on Xbox Series X. And this was a part of an interview with IGN at Gamescom 2023. Specifically, here is what Spencer says about working with Square Enix, Final Fantasy, and all of that type of stuff. He says, we spent a lot of time with Square, outlining that the business deals and relationships need to get worked on. He says, so you'll hear more. I'm not going to push them. They're going to have to find their own rhythm, but having them make a commitment to Xbox is really important, both to me, and I've heard it from the community, to the community as well. And 14 was more of a commitment. 14 is coming, which is a major game. Essentially, they're probably in talks with Square Enix about the next Final Fantasy game. There's probably a deal in place for Final Fantasy 16 that makes it essentially impossible to get on the Xbox platform in anytime soon in the near future whatsoever. But going into Final Fantasy 17, especially with some of the performance things we've been hearing about Final Fantasy 16, it looks like Final Fantasy 17 will probably, unless some crazy business happenings change again, and PlayStation comes in, maybe buys Square Enix, maybe gives a huge bag of money to Square Enix to make sure going forward that no games come on. Final Fantasy 17 is probably hot on the talks between Phil Spencer and Square Enix, and hopefully is going to be landing on the platform. Whether you're a Final Fantasy fan or not, it is better for Xbox to have these games on the platform. They are big games. They're mainstream, essentially the Final Fantasy series in terms of the JRPG genre. And day one releases of a game like Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Final Fantasy 16, missing those is not a good thing for the Xbox platform. Now, let's talk about this. As we know, Samsung has the Gaming Hub, and one of the features in the Gaming Hub is the Xbox Game Pass app. You can stream Xbox Cloud Gaming right to your Samsung TV with no extra hardware needed other than obviously a controller to play the games. And I've tested it out. I don't have a Samsung TV, but I tested it out on my friend's TV, and it works seamlessly. It works great, and it really just looks like it is part of the Samsung experience. So it's actually really well done what they did with the Samsung TVs. One of the things that I thought, or I hoped would happen, was that they would bring the gaming hub and Xbox to older Samsung TVs for people who already have it. And it looks like that is going to be the case. It says older Samsung televisions will soon be able to stream games. The company confirmed that game streaming will be added to several of its 2020 TVs, but it did not specify which televisions will gain support for these streaming apps. So this is what you're going to be getting. The Samsung Gaming Hub, there will be Xbox Cloud Gaming, NVIDIA GeForce Now will most likely make the list. So if you have one of those older Samsung TVs and you've been wondering if you're ever going to be able to play Xbox through it with Xbox Cloud Gaming, it looks like that will be the case. And this is something that if people who aren't huge gamers, probably I would say utilize this more than anything. Somebody who's casual, likes to jump on and play a game every now and then, probably doesn't follow the gaming news thoroughly every single day, probably isn't keeping up to all the latest releases. They jump onto their Samsung TV, they see the gaming hub and say, what's this? Check it out. And that is a great way to get people into the ecosystem. So it's cool to see. I do hope though at some point they do bring the gaming hub or the Xbox Cloud Gaming over to different brands of TVs to give more access overall to the Game Pass service. Now let's talk about this Gear 6. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. We have Starfield coming out. That's going to be the main thing for a long time. But Gears is one of my favorite franchises of all time. I think Gear 6 is going to be crazy because the Coalition makes high quality games. They're using Unreal Engine 5. And they're probably going to be able to be one of those developers that pulls all of the juice out of the Series X, uses all the tools, and gives us an example as to the greatness of what we can expect from this console itself when the developers are able to utilize all of the features available. And we do have this because I think Gear 6 is actually a very long time away, but that may not be the case. We have a rumor here from Special Nick, Xbox Era, saying, according to Special Nick, Gear 6 is a little bit further along than some might think. And also he heard that there is a strong possibility that it may be a full open world game, which would be a huge deviation from the Gears franchise. And I'm thinking about how they would do that. And it could be cool. I mean, it could end up being cool. I do like the Gears formula. We saw those open world areas in Gears 5, those like semi-open world areas throughout the game, which I thought were fun to do, especially if you did some of the side quest stuff. It just gave you more fun Gears action, and maybe it will be that expanded. So I think there is definitely a possibility that this could be true. They're probably testing it out in Gears 5 and seeing how it worked and how many people liked it. And now in Gear 6, they're going to go full-fledged, which with the Coalition could end up being very, very cool to see. So Gear 6, I still think is a couple of years away, but if it is further along, maybe, fingers crossed, we do see Gear 6 at next year's Xbox Showcase. And then finally, we got to talk about this because there's always a discussion going on with Baldur's Gate 3 and the Xbox Series S. Can the Xbox Series S have split screen? Xbox going back on the whole parity thing and saying that they will allow Baldur's Gate 3 to release on Xbox this year on the X with split screen and on the S without split screen. People thought that that meant split screen wasn't coming to the Xbox Series S, and that isn't the truth, as Xbox has responded to this and says here, to answer some questions we're getting, we'll continue to work with Larian to explore the addition of split screen on the Series S post launch. So if you are sitting there hoping about split screen coming to the Xbox Series S version of the game, it will eventually be coming. We don't know when, but again, this shows that it's the resources and the time needed to get this running on the Series S with couch co-op that is holding it back. It's not that the Series S can't get this game mode on to the Series S. So it's all coming. It's just taking a little bit more time, and we'll wait and see when the launch of the Series X version is. Fingers crossed it's going to be sooner rather than later, now that they don't have to get done on the Series S at the same time. But I will leave the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.